Very airwaves, AM 1280 The Patriot, Saturdays, 1 to 3 p.m. He is the headliner edition of the Northern Alliance. I am the closer, closing out weekends 2 to 3 p.m. on Sundays. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in. And the veritable Guestapalooza continues as we are honored at this point to be joined by Jim Hagedorn. He was the Republican candidate in Congressional District 1 in both 2014 and 2016, and is vying to the Republican candidate again this year in 2018. And this is a ripe for a Republican pickup, as a longtime incumbent Tim Walz is not seeking re-election. He is, of course, vying for the DFL nomination for governor of the state of Minnesota. Here to talk to Jim about how his candidacy is faring thus far and what we can expect, perhaps, in the prospects for a flip in this district. Jim Hagedorn, welcome to the Northern Alliance Radio Network.
Brad, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you on. Don't want to conjure up some bad mememories, but do you see the number 0.76% in your sleep these days? After that election, so close, Jim Hagedorn, so close to
49.6 we had against that incumbent congressman down there, Walz, and we would have liked to have won, but I tell people the next morning, as important as that race was, I woke up a happy person because Donald Trump was president of the United States, and had he not won for president, I truly believe we would have lost the country. Hillary would have stacked that court with radicals who would have taken away our basic rights. So we're here to fight another day, and we want to go to Washington and partner with our president.
Well, we do appreciate you stepping forward again, Jim. Like you indicated, a lot of these, the power of incumbency certainly is a thing, and this is a district that's typically right-leaning. And by the way, the 1st Congressional District, for our listeners who may not know, covers basically southernmost part of Minnesota, from the border of South Dakota over the border of Wisconsin, and some of the key cities there: Rochester, Mankato, Winona, Austin, Owatonna, Albert Lea, New Ulm, Worthington. Is that have that about right, Jim?
Yeah, it's kind of the I-90 district, 21 counties, and sometimes in these big districts it takes a little time to build up momentum and name ID. We think we've done that the last 4 and 5 years, and we're right there to win back the seat. We're kind of following the model of the congressman from this particular area, John Klein, who ran 3 in a row.
That's true.
He beat Congressman Luther, and even Cullen Peterson up in there in 7th District ran 4 times against my old boss, Congressman Stanglin. And Newt Gingrich is the most prominent person who had to do it 3 in a row. So here we are.
No surprise, you know your Minnesota history, Jim Hagedorn. I've seen the old time pictures of I think you were a teenager back then when you got to meet President Reagan. Is that right?
Well, those were good times.
Yeah,
in the Oval Office, and actually President Reagan was in Mankato for my father for a fundraiser in 1978.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, you definitely have history on your side, if nothing else, Congressman. Well, talk a little bit about the district. Obviously, this is a district that you alluded to, President Trump. I believe he won this district by double digits. A very strong showing, right?
52.7% percent of the vote. Pretty strong. Hillary wasn't very popular down there, so there's a big margin. But it's a right-leaning district. For the last century and a half, it's been controlled by Republicans. Tim Penny held the seat for 12 years. He was a pro-life Democrat, a fiscal responsible Democrat.
Are there any of those left, by the way?
Well, he's not even a Democrat anymore, I don't think. And then Congressman Walz, when he was elected, he took positions like border security, and he had a unique story and everything, and he took positions to fit the district. Tim Walz wanted the NRA's endorsement. Tim Walz was not for single payer because of the Mayo Clinic and what that would, what socialized medicine would do to devastate Rochester. It was bad enough he voted for Obamacare. I got to tell you, the people trying to replace Walz, they're even to the left of him. They want to fight the NRA. They want socialized medicine. They think transgendered in the military is just okay. Open borders, the whole 9 yards. And I say it's a great contrast because I'm on the other side. These Democrats, they want to resist Trump. They want to replace him, take us back to Obama policies. They're so far left, they've left America, basically, as Reagan used to say about Mondale. But I want to partner with the president, be a conservative reinforcement in the U.S. House to keep America safe, keep making these big moves to make America prosperous, protect our God-given rights, and then sustain agriculture and our way of life. So a clear contrast.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, the agricultural aspect, because you were quoted in an article recently regarding the new tariffs that President Trump has at least proposed, having a significant effect on the pork industry, which is very big down in your particular district. It's kind of been an interesting balancing act you've had to have. Why don't you kind of maybe give us a little insight on what that entails?
Sure. Well, I mean, southern Minnesota is an ag-based economy, so one of the purposes of running is to make sure that we can sustain agriculture and our rural way of life, and it's very important to our rural communities. With that having been said, President Trump campaigned on these issues. He wants to reset or reestablish trade agreements. He wants to protect American jobs and our American economy. I understand that and agree with most of that. The president has wide prerogative and authority in these areas, and I think what he's doing is on the right track. However, there's going to be some reverberations back and forth until we can get this finalized. And, China coming back with tariffs against some of our products, especially pork. We do have, I think it's the second or third largest congressional pork district in the country, is concerning in this respect. And in the end, if we don't have agreements that help us continue to expand markets, open markets for our farmers and agriculture, we're going to suffer. But I expect and I trust the president that in the end, he's going to do everything possible to make that happen.
Now, obviously, we alluded to at the outset here that the president carried this district pretty handily back in 2016. Midterms are notorious for, especially the first midterm after a new president is elected, kind of a course correction. What do you get? I would imagine you have your finger on the pulse for those who typically were non-traditional Republican voters but came out for Trump because, as you well know, Jim Hagedorn, that Trump addressed the issues of these folks that were largely going unaddressed during the 8 years of Obama. So what is their mindset like to this point? Because inevitably turnout's going to be lower during a midterm election than there is a presidential year. That's just the numbers. But I would imagine you're staying engaged with these voters pretty heavily. And what's their mindset at this point?
Yeah, I'll take it one further. I think that the folks that turned out for Donald Trump in the last election, the people that voted mostly for Republicans like myself, they'd been concerned for the better part of 30 years since Reagan that things weren't being addressed.
Okay.
Border security, national security, economic freedom, and then, of course, the Supreme Court was a big driver in the election for a lot of people. But down in southern Minnesota, the folks that supported Donald Trump, by and large, support him. They want to see these big policies through. And so I don't think they want to see the third and fourth year of his presidency derailed. And that's why our race is so important. We're one seat where we can take back a Democrat seat. And we're right there because we've worked the district. We're raising the money. We're unifying the party behind us with people like Tom Emmer, Rudy Boschwitz, Gil Gutnick, who used to hold the seat.
That's true.
And in 18 of the 21 counties, we have either the chair or deputy chair of the party behind us. So we're bringing people together. And if we can take back the seat from the Democrats, it's going to make it all that much more difficult for them to take over the House. And let's face it, if they take over the House, they're going to try and impeach and replace the president. They're going to derail what we stand for. And we're not going to be able to secure the border. We're not going to be able to get in there and take care of these regulations that are hampering our economy. We're not going to be able to have energy independence or protect our firearms rights or be pro-life. And so, this is a very critical election.
That's something, obviously, that has been talked about recently in light of some tragedies around the country that have taken place with mass shootings, and inevitably people want to blame the inanimate object. They want to go after the firearm. The NRA, which is made up of grassroots individuals, their character gets impugned. They're called a terrorist organization. You've heard all of that. Far be it for me, Jim Hagedorn, to discourage your Democrat opponents from going against all that, because that obviously plays well in your district. But that just seemed awfully cynical of Congressman Waltz. I mean, sought the NRA's endorsement, even wore an NRA hat on campaign visits, and now all of a sudden he's running for governor. He's running as fast as he can in the other direction.
Well, he did. I think he took some cynical positions in order to keep the seat, and that's more testimony to the fact that it is a conservative-leaning district. But we have 5 Republicans running for governor. They'll go out and they'll take Tim to task for all that. Folks just stay focused on our race down there. I have to tell you on the issue of Second Amendment firearms that I'm somebody that doesn't believe that more laws are necessarily going to solve any of these problems. We need to enforce the laws in the books. A lot of time, government at all levels lets us down. There are unfortunately just evil people out there who do premeditated things like this, and but I will stand always for the right of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms for lawful purposes, and I will never waver on that.
Obviously, there's been some significant foreign policy issues that have come up. The president has indicated that he indicated at the outset he may think of pulling back from Syria, and then obviously the Defense Department has come out and maybe, I don't want to say contrasted the president, but maybe saying we maybe want to be measured, revisit this. ISIS has been definitely largely eradicated since President Trump has been in office, but that's something, as we know, we have to stay vigilant on. From a foreign policy standpoint, What is your perspective from what the administration is doing now, and what is your vision going forward when indeed, and if indeed you do get to Capitol Hill, Jim Hagedorn?
Yeah, well, to my Democrat friends that give Donald Trump a hard time, I always say he was dealt a tough hand when he came into the White House.
No question.
President Obama's policies to undermine some of our friends and allies in the Middle East and elsewhere, turned the place upside down. Look at Libya, and that just in and by itself, that was a disaster. So I think he's doing a great job. He's standing up to our enemies. He's standing with our friends. He's projecting out American strength and American values around the world. That's all good. I do agree with you that still the threat from Islamic supremacy is something that we need to defend against in the United States. Here in Minnesota, I've seen the problems of terrorism, assimilation issues across the country. I called for a refugee timeout even before Donald Trump waded into that issue in 2015. So, we have to keep our eye on the ball and protect the country and our way of life.
And obviously it had been talked about within the last month or so, and as far as I know, it's still scheduled that President Trump is going to be meeting with the North Korean leader. Obviously, nuclear proliferation still a very big issue here. What is your perspective from how we should handle North Korea? I'm of the mindset that I have a hard time believing Kim Jong-un wants to have mutually assured destruction because he enjoys the role of being a tin pot dictator, but at the same time, we can't just go in there with the expectation that we're just going to ramrod through our our mindset of how this relationship should fare. So what is something that you hope to see if this meeting still continues as planned next month?
Well, if that part of the world could be denuclearized, wouldn't that be something? If the president could negotiate that and we could have a more stable world, I think the administration's moved things quite a bit in just the last few months. It's kind of an unpredictable situation. I guess that's part of negotiations. We'll see how it goes, but I think the main thing is projecting out U.S. strength, standing with our allies and standing up to our adversaries. We haven't done enough of that. North Korea is one, but Iran is another. I'm not saying get into war with these people, but stand up to these bad actors around the world and make sure that people know which side we're on.
Once again, we are joined by Jim Hagedorn. He vying for the Republican nomination in Congressional District 1, the southernmost part of the state. Jim Hagedorn, if people like what they hear and they want to see this particular district finally flip back to its rightful home to Republican, where can people go as far as website, maybe donate some resources, time, what have you?
At jimhagedorn.org, and all of our contact information's right there. You can donate on that page. We would appreciate it. We're working hard, trying to earn the vote, and I think we're going to turn this seat back red.
So how long after that very, very narrow defeat in November did you decide you were going to take another run at this, Jim Hagedorn? Was it? Did you give a couple of weeks at least, a few months? How long?
It was early December.
Sure.
We told the Republican delegates at the State Central Committee we're going to keep going. And I think we thought we had walls in our sights, but he decided to do something different. Now the seat's open. And it's the best pickup opportunity in the nation for the Republican Party, and we're very excited.
I was going to say my preference would, of course, see Tim Walz be sent packing via an election loss, then moving to another office. But we will definitely take this as second best, Jim Hagedorn. So, Jim, we appreciate your time in the broadcast today. Again, feel free to come back anytime to tout your candidacy, and we'll look forward to hearing how the campaign fares down the road.
Thank you, Brian.
AM 1280 The Patriot, Northern Alliance Radio Network. One final segment coming up on the broadcast. Go nowhere.
AM 1280 The Patriot.
Would you like to protect your nest egg? At Online Trading Academy, we teach the skills to grow and protect your investments. Learn this rules-based strategy with our best-in-class instructors, teaching you how to get your arms around your money so you can retire with no worries. Learn the skills to profit from the markets going up or down by joining us for a comprehensive free workshop by calling pound 250 on your cell phone. Use the keyword OTA. Again, that's pound 250, keyword OTA.
Physicians designed Relief Factor as an essential way to support the body's natural fight against aches and pains. It's made from wild-caught fish oil and botanicals like turmeric, and it's a healthy way to get back into pain-free life. There's no side effects. There's no chemicals. There's no preservatives. There is nothing addictive, and that's why you can be very confident that when you take Relief Factor, you have nothing to lose but your pain and the whole world to gain. Maybe you can't wear your favorite shoes anymore. because of pain in your feet, Relief Factor can help with all of that. $19.95 comes to 95 cents a day. That's less than a cup of coffee a day for pain relief. Go to relieffactor.com, read all the testimonials, find out about it for yourself, and order that quick start. Just $19.95 or 95 cents a day for 3 weeks. Or you can call them. It's toll-free. They can answer all your questions. 1-800-500-8384. That's toll-free. 1-800-500-8384. Relieffactor.com.
This issue here at the 2018 midterm election is going to be historic. Let's prepare together on April the 29th for the Patriot Overtime with Hewitt and Gallagher. Understand, Hewitt and Gallagher on April the 29th. Get your tickets now on am1280thepatriot.com.
Have you experienced anxiety, fear, shame, and embarrassment from owing back taxes? Hi, I'm Kathy Hill, founder of Tax Tiger. If you happen to have unpaid or unfiled taxes, I'm here to offer you some hope. Tax Tiger can protect you from the IRS, release wage and bank levies, and negotiate awesome settlements. Above all, Tax Tiger is a company which operates based on Christian principles. If you have an IRS problem, call us today at 612-888-9522 for a free consultation. You can trust Tax Tiger to provide an honest evaluation of your situation. If we can save you money, we'll explain how and answer all of your questions so you'll know exactly where you stand. Call Tax Tiger today at 612-888-9522. You could be closer to financial freedom than you think, and you need a tiger on your side. That number again is 612-888-9522, or visit us online at taxtiger.com.
Did you know that your heart health is affected by good oral care? If it's been longer than 6 months since you scheduled your teeth cleaning, call Barnett Family Dentistry, just off of Highway 10 in Ramsey. Quality dental care, courteous service, and respect for all the smiles in your family. Barnett Family Dentistry.
Hey, welcome back, AM 1280 The Patriot. Northern Alliance Radio Network. Back with one final segment on the broadcast we'd like to call The Closer. That's me, Brad Carlson, closing out this weekend's edition of Northern Alliance Radio Network programming.
6 a.m. day after.
Whew, what a show. Guestapalooza, I guess you could say. So we got this final segment. It's only about 5 minutes long, so don't really have a ton of time to develop some of my thoughts on this news from this past week, but it was kind of a newsy week. Shooting that took place, sadly, out in the Silicon Valley, specifically YouTube's headquarters. When I first read about that, of course, inevitably, I said, okay, when there's a shooting, a high-profile shooting, newsworthy shooting, it's scary because, well, let's be honest, innocent lives are at stake. I mean, that should be the first and foremost thing on our minds and our thoughts, and yet it always devolves into right away, who do we blame for this? Whether it's the NRA or, gun nuts as they'll be called, or what have you, and it never is a situation where we wait for the facts to come out. And sure enough, people say, "Oh, I bet you this was one of those right-wing nut jobs," because there are a couple of high-profile lawsuits being that are going against YouTube. A couple of high-profile lawsuits that were filed against them. Particularly our own Dennis Prager and his organization, Prager University, they filed a lawsuit indicating that that some of their videos are being restricted. Actually, the lawsuit says to stop Google and YouTube from unlawfully censoring its educational videos and discriminating against its right to free speech. Apparently, the lawsuit cited more than 50 PragerU videos, which have either been restricted or demonetized by Google and YouTube. The PragerU videos range on various subjects, presenting a conservative point of view, and include a video by Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz on the founding of Israel. So PragerU filed a lawsuit and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, PragerU, they get these gun nuts all riled up because they say that YouTube is censoring conservative content. Well, yeah, I bet you it's some right-wing nut job." And, of course, NRA TV came out and criticized YouTube, scathing criticism of YouTube, because YouTube was removing videos that showed the proper way to handle a firearm. The educational videos. Okay? Well, as it turns out, the shooter was none of those things. It was a female militant animal rights activist who was a vegan and even had a bumper sticker on her car that read, "Meat is murder." And she hated YouTube for being capitalist. And this woman also quoted Hitler in her videos. So the I don't even remember her. I don't remember her name off the top of my head. It doesn't really matter. I don't even like to give publicity to these particular shooters, anyways. So the point is that this happens time and time again, where these leftists have in their minds, their imagination, who they think committed the shooting, and it never turns out to be who they think it is. But because you're a gun control person means you never have to say you're sorry, because they use the excuse, well, if it helps to progress with common sense gun control, then it was worth it. So it's worth impugning the character of law-abiding citizens in order to pass your agenda. Yeah, that's just a great mindset, isn't it? So the bottom line is that this woman's father, or someone in her family anyways, was warning authorities, had warned authorities that, look, she's been saying these crazy things. She's been threatening that she's going to do something to the folks at YouTube because they were restricting her videos. You need to look into this. And apparently authorities even went to visit her, and nothing was done. And this was the same situation with the gunman at Stoneman Douglas High School, was making not so veiled threats. And there were, and the number is debatable, whether there was 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 times that authorities were alerted to his behavior and nothing was ever done. And yet these same people who want to restrict, who want to enact some sort of gun control, want to give that control to these government bureaucracies that have failed at every level. It's insane. It makes no sense. And yet this is all we ever seem to talk about. And I talked a little bit about this on the pre-show that I did on the Northern Alliance Radio Network Facebook page. You know, that the victims, and thankfully there were no fatalities at the YouTube headquarters. Now, the woman ended up taking her own life, the perpetrator of this crime. But the victims never get a voice because we're all too busy treating the victims as pawns in our political game here. And I don't see this being alleviated anytime soon. That in and of itself is a travesty. Not on the level of obviously people losing their lives, of course not, but it's disgusting. And I'm hoping something like this we can be more judicious in the future. But yeah, I'm pretty skeptical of that. Hey, AM 1280 The Patriot, Northern Alliance Radio Network, folks. I've enjoyed it as always.
CO Minneapolis, fueled by Lucky Station.